And then you realize your statement means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Your statement means nothing. If anybody's listening right now and you think that, if I didn't do anything, I have nothing to fear about, you're wrong. Yeah, trust me.
Candidly.
You're wrong.
We talked about that on Huck's work this morning, and that's one of the big points that we tell all our people. You don't want to be adversarial to law enforcement, but you don't want to give a statement. We tell everybody, look, I would love to. I will help you out. I will sit down with you. This is not the time. I've just been involved in a critical incident.
All right, welcome back to CF Podcast, guys. Of course, we're here at SHOT Show. Of course, day one. I mean, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of folks to see, and we have with us, first of all, Jason, and of course, Kaya.
What's up, guys?
Here, we're in the building, and we've got someone special here, CCW Safe. Ken, Mike, first of all, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and for folks who don't know who you are, let's just give a brief introduction to like what CCW Safe is, because folks have an idea, but they really want to know. Yeah. Let's bring it in.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't even know, this industry exists. So first of all, I'd like to say thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Great to meet you guys earlier when you came out to Oklahoma City. We're going to have to do that again.
Yes.
But that was was that an introduction for you to CCW Safe?
It was our introductions, and it was very, I'd say, one of a kind. So that experience was very good. And for folks who don't know, earlier this year, we actually traveled to Oklahoma City and met these guys, and they toured their whole facility, gave us their whole background. I mean, it's some beyond enlightening stuff and just some things that really resonated with me close to home. And for folks who don't know, you guys are in the business to protect those who are in the 2A space, but in a very special way. It's not like it's bar none via anyone else, but you guys do it in a very special way. And guys, talk to that, please.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way to describe is my story. I was sued in federal court on a shooting as a police officer. I was in law enforcement for 20 years, and got sued civilly. Went through a 1.5-year lawsuit. Luckily, I had the fraternal order police to back me. I didn't have to choose my attorneys, expert witnesses, investigators, all that. Everything was taken care of for me. And, the stress level during that time of being sued civilly when they're going punitive would have been outrageous. But because I had the FOP to handle everything for me, it was really smooth.
Right.
Actually, I learned tons through that, working with expert witnesses and stuff. Got to summary judgment, got kicked out, so we won the case. But when I left law enforcement, I realized, I don't have that anymore.
Right.
And I had, at the time, had 3 daughters, young daughters, and accumulated some wealth. And I had run into, people who I had put in prison before. And at one time, I don't think he recognized me, but I recognized him. And I was like, at that point, I need something.
Right.
And so I went to Kyle Sweet, who is my stepbrother. He's our general counsel, Kyle.
Kyle's awesome.
He's awesome.
Yep.
He went to him and said, hey, man, I need something. Is there something out there? And he's like, yeah, I need to do something too. His law firm had taken off, and looked around, and he called a few days later and said, man, there's nothing out there that's going to give us a comfort level that we had as cops. So, and so we need to do this.
Right.
So that was in 2012. That was right after I left law enforcement and built it up. And, we defend those who are forced to defend themselves.
Right.
And we find the attorneys, we vet the attorneys, we find the investigators, the expert witnesses, we find all that, we pay for it. We're the only company that's actually defended a murder one self-defense case through a trial.
Correct.
And that was Stephen Maddox in 2017, and he never saw a bill, he never saw an invoice, and that was 2 years the worst years of his life. And in that case is actually something good to kind of bring up too, because it's not just the money, you know, and you met him.
Yes.
The you know, mental and psychological warfare that he was going through during that time, 2 years of that, and having, you know, we have retired homicide detectives that, you know, work with the member, work with their family, what they're going through, prepare them for that. We had diet plans, we had workout plans, we had everything we could for him, you know, to keep him positive, which goes way beyond what you would think that service would cover. So,
and just speaking of that, and Stephen's story was so amazing, and I know your background playing to that, it all kind of just meshed together. And I know Kaya's, you know, background, especially being on law enforcement and being on the side, going, you know, local, then state, then the federal side, you know, that kind of plays a factor, brother. So, I mean, chime into that, man. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I was unfortunately not able to come to that party and get together that you guys had. I really wanted to, but I was out of the country, and so I have the pleasure to meet you guys now for the first time, and just dug in a little bit. And you guys really do some really good stuff, because like you were talking about, you were sued in federal court, which is horrible. Nobody wants to get sued in federal court for anything. I've got a little bit of insight there. So but I have been I've gone through court, my own personal life, criminally and civilly before. Nothing obviously happened. The worst times of my life, like when you know you are 100% innocent, like nothing, and you've been in the business, no prosecutor would touch it. You know it. You're like, what? It's stupid. Why are they even going after me? You know, you realize some political stuff in the back. It is crazy how you realize that whole innocence is an illusion thing, right? Which I realize I found myself on the other side of the table, right? And having nobody to protect you, like you're alone. You're like, crap, like I don't have anybody to talk to. And I ended up, thanks to a buddy of mine, let's just say, was able to get an attorney. I mean, sheer fact of just talking, like getting a text message from that attorney. It's like, hey man, so just to let you know, I'm filing this paperwork. Just something so stupid. The comfort on that, I can't match that with anything in my life. Anything, right? Somebody in the field helping you out.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be there to understand this, right? So folks like you, if I'm involved in a shooting and there's nobody to kind of back me up there, you could be 100% innocent, right? Somebody just fired rounds at you and you fired back. I don't care. You're still going to be stressed to death going through the process if you're alone. So having folks like you out there, like workout plan, diet plan, maybe get together like buddies circle, whatever. On top of that, some legal help. Dude, this is unmatched. You got to be there to feel it.
Correct.
So one of the biggest differences between what we do and the other people in the industry do is that on-site response.
Right.
So, you know, Mike talked about, these are retired homicide investigators. They're deployed within 24 hours. You're in a deadly shooting or a very serious shooting, you know, in Stephen's case certainly applies. You know, here's a guy that shows up, or a lady sometimes. You know, Chris is one of our primary ones right now. She has 31 years of law enforcement experience. She was 17 years as a homicide investigator. You know,
Yeah.
And of course, all the law enforcement guys will tell you nobody does 17 years in homicide. It takes a special person.
Right. Yeah,
She
absolutely.
is special, but they're there. They're not there to investigate. They're there for peer support. Get you through the process. Talk to your family. This is what happens next. This is what the police are going to do. This is what the DA might do.
Yeah.
And start counseling you through just everything that's going to happen, because, you know, what I've learned in my 3.5 years at CCW Safe is people don't know what they're about to get into with the criminal justice system.
Correct.
Chris, our critical response, she describes it as it's a steamroller. You're about to get run over by a steamroller,
Right.
and you need somebody there to help you get out of the way, or just be prepared on how to deal with it. And nobody else does that.
You know what I noticed, and I don't want to just go off the highway on this one, but as a former law enforcement myself, I believe in law enforcement. Still, 99% of my friends are in law enforcement. Love it. It is absolutely necessary, but we are at the same time our own worst enemy there too, because losing public trust. Lately, law enforcement's trust has been integrity has been in question, whether at a federal level or a local level. I noticed this too. Like that's why, guys like you, CCW Safe, are needed more than ever. Unfortunately, not all, of course, but my experience was at least, the investigators, unfortunately, they're supposed to be fact-finding, confirm or deny. Is that right? Right. Now, a lot of times they're trying to confirm. A lot of times they're trying to confirm the whatever it is. Oh, wait, he didn't do that? Okay, well, why do you think he didn't do that? Not that. Well, oh, he didn't do that? Well, he did this. Like I've seen transcripts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen transcripts, literally FOIA records of interviews, and I'm reading it. The person clearly says, nah, like contradicting the entire investigation. And the investigators aren't going to that other route. They're just still trying to frickin' confirm it. So you got to understand what you're up against in the criminal justice system. You better have a backing of some sort.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen that where investigators get so locked in
Yes.
on one thing, it's hard for them to get off. What's worse, though, is when, and in saying this, I do want to say the majority of law enforcement out there, I think, does a great job.
Yep.
And they're doing the job. But there are people who do not need to be there. No. And what's worse is when you have cases, and it's kind of like what Stevens was, when they say, you know what, I don't even care, book him, let the court figure it out.
Yeah,
right.
Go ahead and stay in that guy.
And that's even worse because, like you being in law enforcement, you and I have both seen it, and we knew what to expect. It was still complex. Somebody who has no clue what the criminal justice system is, I mean, you're lost.
You're lost, dude. I was lost. I was in it.
Yeah.
Bro, I was in it at a federal level. I was a state guy. I was a state investigator. I was a local guy. I was a federal guy. You would think that, oh, yeah, I know the whole system.
Yeah.
I've testified in courts over 100 times minimum. And here I am like, holy crap, what do I do? If I feel that way, I cannot imagine an average citizen what they go through. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and I'll just say this for the very first time. I was looking at my own gun. Like it was just bad, right?
Wow.
So yeah, exactly. Especially when you're innocent. The guys, folks like us, dude, shoot me.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't accuse me of something I didn't do. Okay. Don't try to challenge my integrity. All right. That's the worst feeling. So not having that peer support, I didn't have it. I was alone. So,
and that's one thing too. You know, being in the system, people, and we get a lot of people are like, well, can I choose my own attorney? And we're like, yeah, you can. We're going to have to vet them. But I'll tell you this. I was in gangs almost my whole career. And I was testifying in court in prelims. You know, some weeks I would be there 3-4 days a week. I didn't know who. When that happened, I was like, I didn't even know who to choose. Yeah. You know, and I work with all these attorneys or against them or whatever. But, you know, I didn't know who to choose. So having somebody to be able to help you in that process with the attorneys especially, I mean, you've probably seen you get the wrong attorney, it's not good.
It is very good point. I had actually two. I was doing the investigation for my attorney. Yeah. Hey, I got this thing. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll do it. What do you have? Well, we're still looking into it. No, you're not. Like I just kept giving information to this attorney, and he or she, let's just say, was not asking anything. And then we ended up going somewhere else where she actually did more. Yeah. So it is a very good point. Like if we feel this way, I don't know how like people would feel, like average person would feel like. So I learned my lesson from there. Like having a peer support system is extremely important. It's not even about the money. But I did spend like over $35,000 out of my own pocket. So it's
Well, it's a whole suite of resources, right?
Yeah.
You need all of those. And, you know, Stephen's a good example. He'll tell you if he'd had $1 million the day his incident occurred, he still wouldn't have known who to call, who's the right attorney, how to spend it, and of course he'll tell you that he doesn't have any doubt he would be in prison today without that full complement of resources. You know, we had to hire the right investigators. The local coroner, I think, had made some errors. I mean, there's all these details. And so the money's important. I mean, it can bankrupt you in 2 seconds in a serious case, but it's having the expertise available to you to use it correctly and efficiently and expeditiously to get you through this thing.
And I think that's one of the key things that you guys have. It's not only just one-sided, it's full spectrum. So you guys got that. I mean, I remember one of the folks on your staff who used to be the Attorney General, or she
Jennifer Chance.
Yes,
She was in the DA's office.
In the DA's office
in Oklahoma City.
In Oklahoma City. So she's got that aspect. You've got, your folks who worked homicide and doing that, your crisis team, and Don West. That man is the legend, the man, the myth, the legend. He is a gem to have. And just to talk through that, I mean, as we break this down, to me, again, there is no other comparison that is out there. So you guys are in a league of your own, in a realm that's pretty much you kind of control. So I find that very interesting. And again, piggybacking on everything that you guys said, the Stevens situation, like I couldn't imagine that whole situation. And for folks who don't know about the story, I would suggest you head over and look at their stuff, and then you actually read more about it. There's not enough time that I could go in about Stevens' story, but like just the way that it was set up and how you guys got the expert witnesses and like did all of this, had a whole separate investigation going on to then present as a full package so that everything can be talked about. Just like you're saying, it's kind of an echo chamber and that whole aspect yourself, the confirmation versus actually going after the true stuff. So that to me is like, again, another addition on to the portfolio that is CCW Safe. So.
Well, I want to thank you for those comments. I mean, we really appreciate that, the way you feel about it. And it really is, getting the right people on the bus. And it's not just me. It's not just Kyle or CCW Safe. It is the whole bus.
Yes.
And, having homicide detectives that can walk in and work with the family and can immediately identify out of a pool of 20 investigators who's going to be the best one to go with. And then on the legal side, having Dawn or Jennifer to be able to go in and vet the attorneys in that jurisdiction who are in that court, those courthouses, day in, day out, makes a huge difference. And you got to have there's a lot of moving parts to that.
Right.
So I got a question. So let's, folks who are watching this right now, they have no clue about CCW Safe. Let's just go through a little scenario here then. And it's for me to know too, because I don't know much about it too. I'm trying to learn about you guys. So do you guys cover only just shootings?
Any weapon.
So, but it is a self-defense situation, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I have an incident, 2 a.m. on a Saturday night. What do I do? Just step by step. I just shot somebody.
So you call 911 first.
Okay.
Right. That's what we advise all our members. Sometimes they call us first, and we're like, hang up the phone, call 911, and call us right back. So you call 911, then you dial our emergency hotline. It's monitored 24 hours a day, all throughout the year.
Real humans.
Real human. It's a real person in Ohio. And they ask 4 quick questions before they connect you through to Dawn or Jennifer. And so the reason people are always like, well, why doesn't the attorney answer the phone? Like, sometimes calls come in on that line that are not supposed to be there.
That's right.
So we get calls from our competitors' members sometimes on that hotline. So, but primarily what we're trying to get is your name, just is it an emergency, and some good contact information, because sometimes in the midst of these incidents, you may not have the phone that we have on file for you, or your spouse might have it, or maybe you're already in the back of a police car. And so we need good contact information. And then they patch the call through to Dawn. And when the act of patching that through, it activates a lot of automation in our system. So there's 8 people that get notified via text 24 hours a day, including Mike and the other founders, Dawn, Jennifer, our critical response leads, Chris and Gary, myself. And so that whole team is activated before we even know anything about the call, because the screening portion, that 30 to 60 seconds, we specifically don't ask for any details about the incident. We're just asking if it's an emergency. And because that conversation is not protected. As soon as they patch it through to Dawn or Jennifer, that's a protected conversation, because you're in the midst of seeking an attorney, right? And so the team is activated. Everybody checks in. It's a kind of a typical process. They stay standing by, so I know everybody's out there, and then we're waiting of kind of the initial reaction from Don or Jennifer on, do we need to deploy critical response on site?
Right.
And so that's the first thing we're going to get back from them. And sometimes they have it in 5 minutes, and sometimes it's 45 minutes. So, for me, I'm sitting at the breakfast table in the kitchen, just waiting for that, and it'll be a stand down.
At 2 in the morning?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. You'll see the
is so
text come in, and we'll get the emergency text, and then it'll be like Gary standing by, Chris standing by, David's
Yeah.
already working on
Very-
pulling up memberships, and it's just standing by, and you can see as it's going in real time. And we do have like a system. If it doesn't hit Dawn and doesn't hit Jennifer,
There's
then it rolls
redundancies.
through.
Yeah.
But Dawn's incredible. He gets 99% of that. And
Very cool.
yeah, so and we have had them come in at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. We had one come in on Thanksgiving Day at like 11 a.m. And and on that one specifically, that was actually a shooting with a death, and we had
Here.
boots on the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, here in Las Vegas, we had boots on the ground the next day, the next morning, and by Monday, I think the attorney that we had already worked with here, awesome female attorney here, we had worked with her in the past. She got on it. She knew the homicide detective over the case. By Monday, it was all done. No charges filed. And that case is actually kind of an interesting one because that guy had 3 memberships.
Oh, wow.
He had us and 2 others.
Which
We
I
were
plan
the-
on getting to.
We were the second call. And the first one,
Yeah.
the first one, well, he didn't get called back until Monday, I think.
The first one.
That was NRA.
The first one that he called, they told him to go file it with his home umbrella policy or his home owner's insurance policy, and he was like, it didn't even happen at my house. And then the second company called him back and said, well, here's a list of attorneys. And he's like, it's done. I mean, it's already done. So that was a pretty interesting case. That was here in Vegas, and that was probably 6 years
6 or
ago or
7.
so.
Wow.
But
Well, kudos to that guy having 3 different memberships. That guy took that very seriously. That's
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
We see less of that now, but there
Yeah.
still are some.
yeah, there are. Yeah.
And we cooperate with the other companies if they're, for some reason, they talk to them before they talk to us. But
Yeah.
we always want to be the first ones involved, and we usually get it resolved without anybody else's help. So, but that
Okay,
back to the process. So now Don is giving us info. So if it's critical response, like deadly shooting, Kaya had to take care of something inside his house, and we've got to fly to St.
They're
Louis.
booking
Yeah.
flights.
So they
vehicles.
start putting the flight info in the thread. 9 a.m., be on the ground at 11. They've already looked it up on a map, 30 minutes, so I can be on site at 11:30.
Wow.
And they're just like, go, no go, and it's always go. But the deployment of the critical response team is not extremely common,
Wow.
but it makes all the difference in the world when we have to send somebody.
We had one time too, and this was recently. We sent 2 critical response team out. We didn't know the guy was arrested. We didn't know what bail was going to be set out or anything. Sent them out, got them going. Don was on with the attorney. They got bail done. They needed a check that day. We flew another guy out with a check.
Wow.
He
Okay.
got off the plane, handed it to him, went right back in, got on another plane and flew home. And we had that check to that bail bondsman that day and got him out. So
Okay.
it's
That's pretty awesome. So what happens after? So he got arrested or didn't? You made your contact. Now you're on the standby with the legal process. What happened?
It can go a number of ways, right, depending upon the severity of the case. But so typically Don then will start, like if it's a stand-down situation where we don't need Chris or Gary, then it's kind of Don on his own at that standpoint. So he's looking for the local attorney based on the specific circumstances of the case. And so many of the incidents that the members get in are sort of brandishing, road rage. It's very, very common, right?
Yeah.
Deadly shooting is much
Less
less
common.
common. So, we could have 3 incidents in Vegas on the same weekend, and we might use 3 different attorneys because, on a deadly shooting, we need somebody who has trial experience in a case that has a potential murder outcome, that we probably don't need that person
for the brandishing.
The road rage. Right, exactly.
Makes perfect sense.
And so Don's dialing that in, and of course, criminal defense attorneys answer the phone 24 hours a day. That's the nature of the game. So it's usually somewhere in an hour to a little bit beyond, depending upon the situation of the urgency of, are the police there? Are you getting taken in? Or is it the police have already left and you're going to go back for an interview in a day or two? We'll still get the right attorney and get them prepped for their interviews. So it branches off pretty quickly once Don determines how we need to handle it. Are we sending critical response? Do we need an attorney this minute? Do we need to be prepared for something 2 days from now? And it's really, he's in control of telling us what resources to deploy. And then our bias is always to cover. We only have the information from the member. So what they've told us happened is what we believe has happened. And so we start deploying resources immediately. And it's nobody does anything like that. Again, like Mike said, some places they're sending you a list of attorneys, and all this other kind of stuff.
I really do want to talk to you, and we don't have to give any names, of course, but talk to you guys about some of the other cases, because there's a lot of controversy on the internet, and I know exactly, you guys know, everybody knows if you're in this space. And, some companies just simply don't cover things, right? Even in their contract stating, if you're charged criminally, we drop you. Well, apparently, the whole innocent until proven guilty, like, okay, I guess some insurance company is going to determine that.
Well, that's one of the issues with insurance too. Yeah. I mean, and that's why we're not an insurance company. And we knew right off. We're like, Kyle. When we first started this, Kyle worked with insurance. He defended hospitals and doctors and dentists and had catastrophic cases. And he goes, I know these insurances have great attorneys, and they're easily going to be able to argue that pulling a trigger is an intentional act.
That's right.
So we knew right off we weren't going to go through that process, and or reimbursement or whatever. And one of the things that I wish Don was here to be able to talk to, you ought to talk to him sometime about it. But if somebody has standing to file self-defense in court and they're awarded that, that's all we need.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the fight no matter what, because the court is allowing them to file in self-defense. If that happens, then it's in self-defense until the court, whatever the court outcome is. So there's been a lot of cases, like you said, in the past and we've always erred on the side of our member. Yeah. And we'll go through with them. The only thing I can think of is, if somebody, like we had one, if somebody leaves a scene, goes get their guns, and then goes back to the scene, that's something. That's something that's going to be okay. But in a lot of the cases, even when we do find an attorney for somebody, and then turns out that they didn't tell us the truth, or the police reports, we won't even ask for the money back at that point. We'll say, we've already put $5,000-$10,000 for your attorney. You can continue with them if they want. You don't have to pay us back, but we're not moving forward on this.
And that's a very valid, right? If you have some premeditation, right? You're out there, boom, you're just going into a place, start blasting, or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Of course, we get that. The whole innocent until proven guilty, yes, that applies to everybody. Somebody, God forbid, can walk into a school and just blast away innocent until proven guilty. I get it. But if you have really that hard line right there, there's clear premeditation, not in self-defense, I get it. But like one of the controversial videos on the internet was this Uber driver, or delivery guy. Remember that, the prankster? He shot that guy, and he didn't get covered. He got dropped from the insurance company that he was dealing with. What do you guys think about that case?
The same thing. He was able to file self-defense in that case, and he actually had a public defender and won it.
100% won that case.
And that's a good case where I'm talking about, and Don can talk about, I'm not sure exactly, but if you're charged with a crime and you apply in self-defense, or you have to meet a standard. If the court says, okay, you meet the standard for self-defense, then we have to. And you know, the case on Stephen Maddox was a perfect case.
Yeah.
Like everything was perfect. We may only see one of those. You know, his attorneys told us, they said, I'll never see another case like that. One of his attorneys broke down afterwards when I met with him, and he said, if he would have been convicted, I don't know if I could have lived with myself, because I will never have another case like that. And so most of them are messy. Yeah. Most of them are they don't have clear lines, but that doesn't mean that it's not a case.
Right. And leading back into that, again, for follow up on their stuff for Steve's case for sure, but that was close to home for us because that was small town North Carolina.
Yeah.
So we're talking about they didn't give him any bit of the benefit of the doubt. He was just booked. You did it. That, you know, this whole thing. And so I could only imagine, especially where he came from to then move to North Carolina. Like that was the status quo. So to me, that would definitely freak me out and send me over the moon. And for you guys to jump in there and to literally, I mean, preferably save the day and just really get that ball going for him. Like his testimony, guys, I can't be any more serious. It was probably one of the most flooring things that I've actually heard, and how he spoke about it. You could see the anguish, him literally reliving that moment, and it's just crazy. Again, how your folks found everything, even down to going back to, it was a gas station, I believe, right? And how getting that video and catching the angle. I mean, it's...
Yeah, brother, the timestamps were off.
The timestamps. I mean,
police
seriously.
Didn't believe him because the time they're like, well, that couldn't have happened because this time. Well, our investigator found the timestamps are off. Matched the timestamps up, and then you got it. And then the medical examiner had the entry wound as an exit wound. Didn't change that until 2 weeks before trial, and they did change it because of our expert. I mean, it was crazy.
There were so many holes in that whole investigation that they literally were able to pick it apart, piece it together, and then present, this is what actually happened, and this is what went down. So,
and when I got the picture, Don sent me the picture of him on the courthouse steps cutting his ankle bracelet off.
Yes.
That brought me to tears. I was like, holy crap. You know, that was the first big case, and it was just incredible to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is the loneliest place ever. Like just being put on trial for something, and you know you didn't do. Like if you did something, right? Let's say you robbed a bank and you got busted. Okay, you know what's coming. You're dealing with it. You're trying to minimize damage, whatever you're doing. But just we're sitting right here. Somebody walks in. It's like, hey, come on over. You're going in. You're like, for what? Well, you did this. What? I was here. And then you realize your statement means nothing. Your statement means nothing. If anybody's listening right now and you think that, if I didn't do anything, I have nothing to fear about, you're fucking wrong. Trust me.
Candidly.
You're wrong.
We talked about that on Huck's Work this morning, and that's one of the big points that we tell all our people. You know, you don't want to be adversarial to law enforcement, but you don't want to give a statement. You know, we tell everybody, look, I would love to, I will help you out. I will go through, I will sit down with you. This is not the time. I've just been involved in a critical incident. You know, I don't have the right mind. I would like my attorney present. And, you know, we're even talking on that podcast, NYPD and some other agencies. If you're involved in a shooting, that officer's going to the hospital immediately to get checked out. His whole body is because he's been involved in a critical incident.
And this is proven, okay? Generally, that officer's statement, you know, you have your walkthrough, as you know. You'll do that and sent home, and you're given statements even days later because you do remember more stuff later on. This is scientifically proven, happens all the time. There are cops out there that are just dumping mags, completely slide lock. He has no idea he's got a slide lock. Hey, how many times you fired? I think 3 times. That's what they say. Oh, you have fired all 17 of them. Like, and he's not lying.
No.
He just can't remember. It's a critical incident.
In my shooting, I remember sitting on the couch like 8 to 10 hours later thinking, like, what the hell just happened? Like, trying to piece it together. And a few days later, I was like, okay, I remember this and this.
Yep. That is scientifically
proven.
proven.
Nature, yeah.
So on the spot, not giving any statements. And law enforcement should understand this too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it comes down to training. Okay, I'm not here to bash cops. It really comes down to training. You know, CIT trainings, as you know, they're extremely crucial. Everybody's going to the range, flat range, and just trying to drill that bullseye. Well, that's to a degree. you actually want to do a lot of CIT training, because a lot of times that's your weapon right there. You're trying to solve problems by just talking and listening. And cops just some cops go out there and they just take a statement from somebody right off the gate. The guy's just still, look, you've been in a shooting. I've been around there, and I've seen people just completely white. Some badasses, right? They're just completely white. Just they have no idea what just happened. You can't ask that guy questions like, hey, what happened? Just sit down here. Okay, you just can't. It's just not the right time. And unfortunately, you can say certain things that could get you jammed up. So as a former, I can just speak for myself, we've all heard this, right? Hey, you're in a hole. You want me to throw you a ladder? You've heard that before, right? Hey, man, you dug yourself a hole and you're down there. You can't get out. I'm here to throw you a ladder if you want me to. Yeah. Okay, I don't need that ladder, officer. Just, let me talk to my attorney, or I'll call my CCW Safe, whatever. Just, I think in my personal opinion, initially not giving any statement and just let your counsel decide what you're going to do is the safest way to handle things.
Yeah, and that's the earlier we were talking about this as well. It's human nature to want to justify yourself with whatever you do. And if you don't remember and you can't recall and you have memory distortion and you're locked, and human nature is you're going to try to fill in the blanks to justify yourself. Right. Yeah. And people do that all the time, and they're not lying and they're not trying to deceive, but they're saying what they think they did or what they think they would have done because they can't remember. Yeah. And it gets them in trouble because then it goes against evidence or does, whatever. So absolutely, this is not a good time to talk. I'll be happy to give a full interview, but I can't do it now.
Yeah, we had a hit and run incident, the fatal hit and run, and one person was injured, the other one was dead. These are victims. What was the car? We asked, right? What kind of car was that? It was a green Ford Ranger, is what we were told. Do you know what car it was? It's a freaking silver Chrysler sedan.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
On the spot, that green Ford Ranger, I'll never forget it, green Ford Ranger and a freaking silver Chrysler sedan. Talk about that. These things are real.
And that's often. Yeah. I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. So people aren't lying, but critical incidents, contacting folks like you, like CCW Safe, and just let them take over because you can trust them, right? They're there for you, for nobody else. As much as cops are out there just trying to investigate, preliminary do their thing, cooperating, being respectful is very important, but I don't believe giving any detailed information right on the spot is wise for anybody.
And you mentioned training, and I want to circle back to that because we've talked about the legal side. We've talked about the aspect of what you guys provide when it comes to that. But I feel like what's untapped is also the training aspect. And you guys add another notch to the belt with that side. I mean, you guys have a whole, you guys have Garrett who, does the training, and who, I forgot the bigger guy at your compound. Justin. Yeah. He is a wealth of knowledge. He is a Knights Armament aficionado, so we definitely spark conversation on that. But not only that, your facility there that you guys do training with, you guys have industry partners such as Julie with Smith & Wesson, JJ Ricaz, all these things. So you guys are getting that aspect in there, not only in the professional side of protecting those, again, who are protecting themselves or others, but you have that side where, hey, we have things that can help us on this aspect. So can we talk about that? Definitely.
Yeah. The overwhelming majority of our members are not going to get in an incident. Right. But the rest of those people, we want to provide them resources to help them be trained and educated on when that time comes, not just what to do if the incident occurs, but really with the focus on things like de-escalation, avoidance, withdrawal. We would just much rather you not get in the incident. It has nothing to do with us dealing with your incident. We just know what that's going to do to you emotionally, even at a low-level incident. So, we have 1,000+ pieces of content out there for our members, and even most of that's available to the general public, by the way, because we just believe in having everyone educated. And so you can see everything from some of those topics I talked about. We'll have experts like Don do breakdowns of some of these high-profile self-defense incidents that have occurred over time, and that's also very educational.
Right.
And they can see what's happening in a trial and discuss, how the members might avoid some of this kind of stuff.
Right.
So there's a ton of material out there, and we're always hiring and people to write articles, bringing in other experts. We just did some deals already at the show with some new folks to write new content. So that's what the majority of our members do in interacting with us, and our newsletter comes out every week. So whether it's a podcast or a training video, JJ doing shooting videos,
Right.
shooting drills. I mean, it's all part of it. So it covers the whole spectrum, but we really just would rather have members learn how to avoid that stuff altogether.
Right, and that plays again to what you were saying, using this before going to anything. I mean, that plays a huge factor, brother.
You can relate to this. How many times have you gone to a call, you see who's dispatched with you, you're like, oh God, I'm going to fight this guy.
Yeah.
Like whatever call you're going, there's probably going to be a fight there.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, okay, like.
Yeah, this is going to be handled.
Yeah, so it's seriously, there are some cops out there, and maybe early in my career I was that guy too. I will own up to it. Like maybe I was just more like high strung. Towards the end, I was a little calmed down, let's just say. But there's some cops go out there and just like, all right, come here, shut up, sit down. Like, dude, when you talk to people like that, you're gonna get in fights, unnecessary fights, and de-escalation. Dude, there's some female cops that I used to work with, and they just know. They knew, at least the ones that I work with, they knew that, hey, this 6'5" guy, I'm not. It's not gonna happen. Let me try to talk to this guy, and then when you this applies to everything, even in your relationships. When you try to talk to people, you would be amazed how much information you get out of them,
Right.
and how you're able to solve a lot of problems by just simply talking. But yeah, the de-escalation stuff, like verbal judo, we talked about that, right? Like there was a book on it too a while back, I remember. And that stuff actually works, so it's a great training opportunity. Like I would focus on that even more in my shooting skills too.
Stan Campbell, who's one of our other co-founders, he and Mike were 20 years together on Oklahoma City PD. That's Stan's area of expertise. But when I first came to the company, in Stan, we were talking a lot about de-escalation and how to handle some different things. But then he said, you know what, when people ask you how they should have handled something, he goes, just ask them this one simple question. What would you have done if you didn't have a firearm? And their answer, like 99.9% of the time, is, well, I would have gotten the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And like,
Think
there's
about
your
that.
answer. The firearm is not the solution, right? That you really need the solution without the firearm.
Yeah.
That's absolute last resort.
That is the last resort. Think about that. That's like, in fact, that's part of the law, right? Imminent
Imminent,
threat, right? If you don't have that, then you don't really have a case. I mean, maybe. It's a really gray line at that point, right? But if you can avoid it, like forget even that you have a case. Like, why would you even want to go through that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They don't. I think people overestimate their ability to cope emotionally with even the lowest level incidents. But in Steven's case, we were with him a couple months ago shooting some video, and we were having a beer at the hotel, and just Steven and I sitting there, and he's just talking about how all the things that we had done were incredible and amazing, and the attorneys, all the stuff we've gone through on this chat today. But he said, 7 years later, he said, there's nothing that anybody else can do that alleviates the fact that several times a week I think about taking somebody's life. Even though I know I would be dead if I didn't do what I had to do. He said that you can never shake that. And he goes, I never thought 7 years later I'd still be thinking about it, and not just thinking about it on occasion, but literally every week, thinking that person had a family, that person had a wife and maybe kids, but I did what I had to do in order to not die. And it's very, very tough to deal with. And I think you and Steve and Mike, you guys still talk regularly about his
he's 100%. Like, we shot and killed a guy a while back. The guy was shooting at us with an AR, and one of the rounds, like, he's firing at me when I was trying to get to a cover, and one of the rounds just went by my right ear, just like that, right? And I'm like, oh crap! Like, you're in the moment, you're doing your thing, and I remember that guy died in my hand. And me and a couple other guys doing a CPR. I was trying to open up his airway, plug in the hole, whatever, and he died. And I will never forget for the rest of my life, as I'm holding him, he's just leaving us, right? Mm-hmm. At the time, I was like, okay, like you just move on. And then as you're going home, sit on the couch, you're like, oh, man,
yeah,
this just happened today, right? Yeah. And to this day, I see his face. It was just, I just see the moment he's dying. To this day, I'll never forget that. It's like, the guy tried to kill us, me and everybody else there. There's just friggin' 20 cops, and he's just spraying with AR-15. And we were gonna die, so it's like, that had to happen, right? And you just live with it. It stays with you. So
I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but CCW Safe was the innovator in the industry with adding counseling services to the plans. Like nobody had ever done that, and you guys brought that in.
That's very good.
We did that early. Yeah.
And now that's a standard. Almost everybody in the industry does that because we started that, thanks to Mike and Stan.
That is very good. So in order for somebody to be a member, what do they have to do?
Just go to ccwsafe.com. Used to have a permit. If you're in a constitutional carry state now, we have constitutional plans, and join up, and that's it. Really, it's a pretty easy process, pretty simple process, and we tell our members we hope we never have to meet you, but if if we do, we'll be there.
So what about, you said permit? That's for carry permit. What if those people who have a gun at home and they just don't have a carry?
Yeah, some people get. Our plans include like cleanup, hazmat services at homes. That's probably $3,500, $5,000 if you get in a shooting in your house.
Yeah,
you don't want to have to clean that up and pull the carpet. And, everything. So we have a lot of people that actually don't carry that have our plans just for the home.
That's what I was saying.
Defense.
So the plan will cover you either place. If you're a person who just is never carrying, we have a home defense plan, which is just for you and your spouse and your non-adult children inside the house. But if you buy a permit plan or in a constitutional carry state, you're still covered inside the home or outside the home. All of our plans are multi-state coverage. Some other companies, you got to add that on. Like, hey, you live in Vegas, but you went to Phoenix, and your incident happens down there. That's covered. You don't have to get into trying to like micro dial in all these things that might happen. By the plan, we take care of you. We can't help you if you have an incident in New York or New Jersey.
I'm just about to ask that. What about New York, California?
California, no problem. New York, New Jersey, and Washington State. Unfortunately, if you have an incident there, we can do a few things for you, but we can't spend any money on your behalf.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll change.
Yes.
Who knows what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
Hopefully things will change.
It's a new day and age.
Yeah, it is. As of yesterday.
It is indeed.
I just remember something. You just said that. Those California and a bunch of other states. I'm from Chicago, for example, Illinois. You can't carry a gun. Those like stupid gun free zone signs that they have. It's a misdemeanor.
Yeah. That totally stops a criminal.
Yeah. I know, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Oh, no, this sign, I got to go.
Yeah, so you walk in to, a coffee shop. It has that sign. Illinois, they are everywhere, right? Yeah. If you go in, it's a misdemeanor. They'll ask you to leave.
Trespassing basically is what it comes down to.
Nothing crazy. Okay, you go in, it says gun-free zone for that, Jason's coffee shop, right? Let's just say, right?
A good joke.
You get into a incident there. Does that affect?
Well, it's if you're in a legitimate self-defense incident, it's covered.
Okay,
because that's really the only thing we have is it has to be a self-defense incident.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the core of all the response.
Gotcha.
So like California, I'm sure you guys probably talked about it on the show about a year ago. When SB2 was going on, where they were basically saying everywhere was off limits to carry, even if you had a permit. We had just a flood of phone calls from members like, so you're not going to cover me if I'm 200 yards away from the school where they say I can't carry now? We're like, no, we don't care. Now, if you go out and just get a carry violation that has nothing to do with self-defense,
Oh yeah, that is
right.
I don't think anybody should be getting upset on that one.
No,
so.
but if that comes along with your self-defense case and it's not separated out, then we're paying for the defense of that.
Gotcha.
too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we do get a lot of calls like that, and we try to help our members. We're like, hey, we'll find you an attorney,
Yes.
whatever. If
Yeah.
it doesn't fall within, there's no self-defense incident, it's a TSA thing or whatever, we'll help you get an attorney as far as find you a good one.
Ryan,
So-
you need one of those TSA.
Well, on some of our plans, we actually added that coverage to some of our premium plans. So if you have an unintentional, TSA deal where it's like, oh, there's some ammo in my backpack and I forgot about it, and you get the screening.
Ammo, you saying?
I've
Or
gone through ammo
other
problems
things.
with guns. Somebody behind the camera may have almost done it.
I mean, I'm just saying,
Unnoticed.
I did make it all the way to Switzerland, unfortunately, with a loaded magazine in my bag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But thankfully, Switzerland's gun-friendly
Yeah. Oh,
place.
yeah.
So, yeah, I just, I think it's part of their law where every male over the age of 16 is required
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
a rifle in the home. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that history kind of made them go that route for sure. So, I mean, trust me, that was a shock as I'm going through my bag about to enter a facility there. And I was like, uh-oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
So,
You got lucky, man.
I did. Yeah.
It happens several times a year for members, and we take care of that.
That's a good question. Yeah, speaking about that, because recently that's been a really big thing, like just going through TSA or flying through somewhere else. Let's say, I think I asked this question last time because I did ask, do you guys cover outside of the U.S.? And it was no.
That would make no sense because the laws are completely
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So never.
Yeah,
Yep.
the laws.
completely different.
The other thing that is occurring more frequently with our members is sort of these red flag situations.
Oh.
So particularly
Oh,
as a
yeah.
result of a self-defense incident, or there's an administrative action against the member's permit as a result of that, like in Illinois, that's very common. You had a little incident, now the police show up and go, yeah, your Ford card's been
Yeah.
revoked and we're taking the guns, and so we have coverage for red flag in all of our plans.
Wow.
Again, it needs to be related to self-defense, but it's happening very regularly.
Right.
And
That's really cool.
But
gotta
Illinois
remember.
is the #1 location for the red flag stuff.
It is.
For
It's
us, just in our experience.
It's unfortunately very bad state, and my old agency, Illinois State Police. Love the folks. They're actually here too, hanging out. But yeah, the whole FOID thing. Even at a ground level, I could speak for a bunch of other guys, the troopers I work with. We didn't like the FOID thing.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, come on, man, this dude is completely clear and never had any problems. Oh, FOID violation,
Yeah.
misdemeanor. Yeah, it's just so sad what's happening over there.
We had an incident up there was a red flag, and the member called in, got the hotline. We got him the attorney, got everything taken care of, and we didn't realize. I'm not going to say who it is, but he was a influencer online, firearms influencer. He was a trainer, and somebody sent us the video after the fact. We had just taken care of him like any other member because that's what we do. And he's like, okay, guys, CCW Safe is legit.
That is awesome.
He's like, I'm a firearms trainer. They took my guns. They canceled my voided my FOID card. Like, I'm out of business. I called CCW Safe, went through everything. They got the right attorney. We went to court. We got it done. I got everything restored, and I'm back in business.
Wow.
And he
That
posted
is-
this video. It was about 2 years ago. And people started calling. They're like, oh, I saw this person. And, they're like, you helped him on a red flag FOID card? We're like, yeah. We had no idea he was a known entity.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are awesome. I mean, this sounds really good. I got to know, like, this is a podcast I'm obviously a part of now. I got to know more about this because I didn't know. I looked you guys up a little bit after Jason and the team visited you guys. And in fact, at home, I like to take journals every single morning. I got the CCW Safe notebook from Brandon.
Yeah, we got an
I was
extra
like,
one.
every morning I'll just take a
Nice.
little journal and just kind of
Yeah.
write stuff, and it's my CCW
Nice.
notepad. And I got to look you guys up a little bit. I got some information, but this podcast completely, I want to be a member, and I sincerely mean this.
Thank you.
So this is sounds
We'd
really good.
love to have you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That
Yeah.
guys are great.
I tell people it sounds
Yeah.
corny's not the right word, but when Mike and Kyle and Stan hired me 3.5 years ago, they were very clear on the values and the mission of the business.
Right.
And we just believe that if we take good care of the members,
Yeah.
everything else takes care of itself.
That's it.
So you're not going to see controversial videos about dissatisfied members. You're not going to see crazy marketing schemes.
Yeah.
We're not going to get on a podcast and slam our competitors, even though they might deserve it or might not deserve it. We don't try to put ourselves in their shoes. We don't know what information they had when they made their decisions.
You know, those who
we
take
just operate differently.
those who take the light, try to take the light away from others. They dim their own.
Yeah.
That is
For sure.
I believe in that. I live by that.
Our story is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
no one will take care of you the way that we do. This incident Mike talked about, where we sent 2 people, this may be my last little story, where we had 2 people on the ground. So we have a recap call at the end of the day once we have boots on the ground. And it's just this, like a Zoom call. And there was about 7 or 8 of us on there. It was a Friday night at like 7 or 8 o'clock. I was at home, and I was sitting at my dining room table, my laptop, and they're recapping everything that they've done for the member and what's coming next and how to get it. It was about an hour. And my wife had been standing in the background the whole time. I didn't realize she was standing watching over my shoulder. You know, I closed the laptop, and I'm like, whew, because it's emotional. Like, this guy had been through a lot. And I turned around, and she was pointing at the computer, and she goes, that's what you do? Like, that's what y'all do when somebody gets in trouble? I'm like, that's it. She's like, if people saw that, everybody on the planet would sign up. And her 2 points were really interesting. So if you're just looking for third-party perspective, she said, everybody on that call contributed, and it was about what can we do to take care of this guy. Because in his case, got arrested in home in the middle of the night, didn't have any clothes. He was in shorts and a T-shirt. So getting him clothes, hotel rooms, all these things. Setting up his counseling, starting that process. And she's like, all they talked about was how to take care of this guy. And she said, the second thing I noticed was nobody ever talked about what anything cost.
Right.
Nobody ever said, should we do this? How much is it? She's like, everybody said, this is what he needs. This is what we should do. And everybody in charge just said, yes, go, get it done.
Right.
She goes, that was amazing. She goes, I was already proud of being affiliated with the company, but she said, seeing what that was, like, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. People only who have gone through the legal system will understand. It is so freaking lonely. You don't want to go through that. And if you do, hopefully they have a support system like the CCW Safe.
Yeah.
That sounds like an awesome thing. As I said, I want to be part of that because I've gone through some legal stuff alone. Gosh, I think I'm scarred for life. I really think I'm scarred for life on that one. Yeah. Just every time I think about it, just.
It's devastating.
Yeah. And I used to. When I was a police officer years ago, like defense attorney, because they put you on the stand, their job is to discredit you, right? Officer, so did you do this? At this time, did you do that? And we would just hate those defense attorneys, right?
Yeah.
And then until you need one, you're like, holy crap, these guys are awesome.
Yeah.
They're so, not all of them, just like everybody else. Like you got to get the right one because your life, your fate depends on that one motion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or really, attorneys, be careful when you select your attorney. It's so freaking important.
Well, that's fine. That's why they vet them, right?
Well,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
Just like that stress you talked about earlier, where you can't answer the questions correctly about how many times did you fire, what color was the truck, whatever. How are you supposed to pick an attorney for yourself with that same mindset immediately, or even get a list of 10 and go, which one's the right one? And what if you're in jail?
Yeah.
And your wife gets the list, or your spouse, whatever the situation is. How do they know which
Yeah.
one?
Right.
They don't.
Mm-hmm.
So we think it's kind of absurd to put somebody in that position. So it's like, well, here's Don. He's got 39 years of criminal defense experience.
Let that
handle
guy.
it.
It's yes.
And you can have a say so. To Mike's point, right? You can participate. You can approve, disapprove. You can recommend, but we're not going to let you get one that isn't right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We appreciate just you guys having us on and giving a chance to tell the story and access your viewers.
I appreciate you guys actually schooling me on this one because I feel like I gained more out of this because I didn't know about this whole process, how this works, and now I know that there is a company out there like this who I could actually depend on. That gives me some comfort.
Full spectrum.
Yeah.
Full spectrum. And again,
awesome.
On both sides of the coin, y'all have got it. So.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. Really,
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Thanks for stopping by. And one last time, just let folks know how they find you.
CCWSafe.com. That's it.
Socials? Anything at all?
Everything CCW
It's
Safe.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twitter, Instagram.
There you go.
YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah.
Just Google it,
YouTube.
guys. CCW Safe. Google it. You'll find your stuff. So thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Always a
you.
pleasure, guys.
Enjoyed
Thank
it.
you.
Man, great
Thanks,
to
guys.
see you again.
Always a pleasure.